All right, you guys, today we're doing chapter 12, lesson 5, except we don't want you to do it in your book. You're going to do it on quizzes instead. We're going to go through the quiz like we did yesterday so that you know how to answer these questions. It's all about quadrilaterals. So let's look at this. A blank is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides and 4 congruent sides. So if we look at our options here, we're looking for 2 pairs of parallel sides. So that could be all 3 of these, but could it be a trapezoid? Nope. And then also it has to be that all sides are exactly the same. They're congruent. Okay, and we got rhombus for that. Remember to use your chart in the book so that you can see all these shapes, and that way you'll know. A blank is a quadrilateral with 2 sets of parallel sides. So a quadrilateral with 2 sets of parallel sides. So we all instantly know trapezoid can't make it, and we don't consider a kite to be really a shape. A triangle can't be close, so there we go. Parallelogram. Remember to take notes on these. Okay, a quadrilateral with 2 sets of parallel sides. Now, it has to have 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. So 4 congruent sides, meaning they're all the same. Well, instantly, something should be popping into your head. It should be a shape. Should it be trapezoid? Could it be a rectangle? Are all parallelograms congruent? But what about square? So really, these questions just take some time because you have to look through them and really think about what you're talking about here. So a square is a rectangle. You guys should know that one. Should be true. Some of these we're going to skip because you know the answers. Just got to think. Okay, now is a parallelogram always a rectangle? Because it says a parallelogram is a rectangle. Well, I've seen a lot of parallelograms that are not rectangles. Okay, so that would be sometimes. Now, this one we covered yesterday. A rectangle is a square. Well, sometimes it is, but not always. Okay. All right, so now let's get to a harder one. We're classifying this shape. Select all the names that apply. So this is where it gets tricky because you have all these different things that you could click, right? All right, and actually I'm going to go back to that picture one more time because I want to be really clear what I'm looking at. So we kind of have this diamond type shape. I'm looking at it and I see these dashes here, which means each side is congruent. I see 4 sides. Okay, let's go see what we can click. All right, is that a square? Well, there's no right angles, so no. Has 4 sides, so it's definitely quadrilateral. Is it a parallel? Oh, I didn't even get to finish that. Parallelogram, yes, and we know it's a rhombus because all sides were congruent. Okay, when you guys do your real test, you'll be able to push the buttons and then you'll press submit over here. So what I just did won't happen to you. All right, classify this shape. Again, we have these little red dashes. That means they're all congruent. We have these little blue boxes, which means they're all right angles. So I instantly know that it's a quadrilateral and a square, but could it be more things too? So a quadrilateral, it's a square. Is it a rhombus? Yes. Is it a parallelogram? Absolutely. Both, it has opposite sides parallel. And we know that squares are rectangles, so it's everything there. Okay, let's see. So, yep, it's all of the above. All right, we're going to classify this shape and select all the names that apply. Again, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 shapes, or excuse me, 4 sides, and I see that none of them are really congruent, and I only see 1 set of parallel lines, so trapezoid pops into my head. So is it a rectangle? Nope. Parallelogram can't be. It only had one set of parallel lines. I said trapezoid, yep. Quadrilateral, yes. And rhombus, no, because not all sides were congruent. So trapezoid and quadrilateral. All right, classifying this next shape, we're going to select all the names that apply. I see that this mark says that this side and this side are congruent. This side and this side are congruent, so opposite sides are congruent. 4 right angles, and it's got 4 sides. Let's see what we've got. So it's a quadrilateral for sure. We said that they weren't all congruent, so it's not a square or a rhombus, because you have to be congruent to be a rhombus. But it is a rectangle and a parallelogram, because the opposite sides parallel. So quadrilateral, parallelogram, and rectangle. Hopefully you guys are making notes of all this. Classifying this shape, and we're going to pick all the names that apply. So again, I see that these are congruent and parallel. These are congruent and parallel, but no right angles here. So it's not going to be a square or a rectangle or a rhombus, but it could be a quadrilateral and it could be a parallelogram. Definitely not a trapezoid because we have all those parallel lines. So quadrilateral and parallelogram. Awesome. All right, next one. A blank is always a rhombus, but a rhombus is not always a blank. So instantly when I read this question, I think square because, let's check. A kite is always a rhombus? Nope, we just said not to do that. So a parallelogram, let's go back and read the question and see if parallelogram would work. And rectangle, let's see what we got again. A blank is always a rhombus, so it's definitely not rectangle. It's either parallelogram or square. But a rhombus is not always I'm going to say square because rhombuses are always parallelograms. All right, let's keep going. Which figure is never a parallelogram? Well, let's see. A rhombus is, a square is, a rectangle is. Well, that leaves triangle. Okay, that's never going to be a parallelogram because it only has 3 sides. So which 2 figures can always be described as quadrilaterals with all sides congruent? So we're going to look for 2 figures that are quadrilaterals with all sides congruent, and they have to always be congruent, okay? So a rhombus and a parallelogram. Well, let's go back one more time. Let's read the question one more time. Which 2 figures can always be described as quadrilaterals with all sides congruent? Okay. So we're looking for 4-sided and all the sides are the same. So a rectangle that doesn't fit. So we can get rid of both of these. So we have a square and a rhombus. Well, a rhombus always has congruent sides and so does a square. But a parallelogram, that could be totally different. The top and bottom could be way shorter than the sides. So I say square and rhombus. Okay, look at us getting smarter every minute. Which name could be used to describe all parallelograms? So when it says all, you got to be really careful here. All parallelograms are not going to be rectangles because some could be squares. They could be regular, but isn't quadrilateral a better answer here? They're always going to have 4 sides. All right, and so which statement is not true? We're looking for the false statement here. Every parallelogram is a rectangle. No, that's definitely not true. But instead of clicking this one first, I'm going to go through and make sure all of these sound right. So every square is a parallelogram. That's true. Every rectangle has 4 right angles. Absolutely. Every square has 2 pairs of parallel sides. Yep. So it's definitely every parallel is a rectangle. Every parallelogram is a rectangle. Kind of hard to say all these words after a while. Okay, is a trapezoid a quadrilateral? Well, I hope you know the answer to that one. Doesn't it always have 4 sides? If it doesn't, then it's not a quadrilateral. All right, a couple more to go. A quadrilateral with 2 pairs of congruent parallel sides is a rectangle. So a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of congruent sides, parallel sides, is a rectangle. Sounds good to me. That always makes me nervous. Let's check one more time. A quadrilateral with 2 pairs of congruent parallel sides is a rectangle. Okay, I'm going to say always. Sticking with my answer here. But see how I went back and reread the question one more time just to be safe? You guys don't have a timer, so you want to make sure you do that. Okay, classify this shape. Select all the names that apply. Okay, so I see 4 sides here, so it's going to be a quadrilateral for sure. What else do we have? It's definitely not a square or a rhombus, right? Rectangle, parallelogram. I'm going to go with just a quadrilateral, just because it's 4-sided. All right, we are on our last question. A blank quadrilateral has 2 sets of parallel sides, 2 sets of opposite congruent sides, and 4 right angles. So, oh man, that's a lot of stuff to choose from here. Okay, a blank quadrilateral has 2 sets of parallel sides, 2 sets of opposite congruent sides, and 4 right angles. So it sounds like it can't be a square because they're going to be opposite. Okay, so I'm not going to go with square. I'm not going to go with trapezoid because there's no right angles. Rhombus is a maybe. I'm going to go with rectangle here. That was a lot of stuff, and we got it. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. I'm sure it was a lot easier to take the test after you watch the video. So good luck.